Starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. Mr. Speaker, ladies and gentlemen, with the dawn of the Reagan administration in the 1980s, we had the birth of the American dream, the golden promise that everyone had the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and that the grass was greener where you watered it. However, taking a look at how that's been, we think that is absolutely a lie, and the capitalist incentive structure that serves as the heart of neoliberalism has epically failed the world and has led to huge swaths of people and populations under the poverty line, at best struggling in the rat race as middle class, and on the worst, desolate, living on a hand-to-mouth subsistence. A few features of our model we think are relevant for this debate. Number one, what is this debate about? This debate is not about neoliberalism in a vacuum being good or bad, but uniquely about the ways in which it failed. And I think there are three key metrics in which it failed. A, it failed economically, since the promise was that because of the free market, government and state deregulation for business and private enterprise, and promising the redistribution of resources across the world has strongly led to large gaps of wealth inequality. B, the political promise that absent strong state intervention, the private arm or private enterprise was going to be able to be effective, but the harm is that it has led to monopolies and these ethnic demagogues ultimately wrecking particular people and reinforcing this very toxic rat race that the middle class and poor have to run for the rest of their lives, only for the 1% to be able to be empowered. Fuck the rich, let's eat them. C, it's failed socially, because inasmuch as they wanted globalization to be able to open up borders, this has largely led to war. It largely has led to inter-border skirmishes and has largely led to migrant and refugee crisis, where pregnant women and men and even their children literally have to scramble to the boats, taking risky ventures to other shores in the name of capitalism, ultimately failing them, trying to find recluse where life is better. The second thing I have to say is that uniquely to neoliberalism, this was largely a response to the strong globalization that we were seeing during the 80s with Reagan and the entire world doing their thing at the time. But the comparative that side opposition has to contend with is the idea of protectionism. The idea that stronger state intervention perhaps necessarily could have been better, or that neoliberalism in some way, shape, or form would be successful. And I say that neoliberalism has led to the reliance on Bretton Woods institutions like the IMF and the UN, which largely, by the way, are controlled by America, and this is something that happened post-World War II. What is the argument coming from first speaker? How and why neoliberalism has failed? And on the comparative, even if we have innovation and free market enterprise, the invisible hand, which was supposed to be able to lead capitalism, which is the mechanism and the heart of neoliberalism, has ultimately wrecked the world. First layer of analysis. Neoliberalism uniquely has led to an unequal distribution of resources. That is to say, you have rich corporations and rich nation states like that of America, China, Europe, and Russia, at the expense of poorer nations like that who we had to be able to be solely reliant on the altruism of Donald Trump and USAID in order to literally be able to get money and literally be able to eat. That is to say, it has led to the birth of hegemonic powers that continue to exploit these nation states. Sure, there is some sort of protection. Sure, there is some sort of free trade. But the imbalance is always going to be there. Case in point, when Donald Trump redacted USAID, a lot of the large nations who were dependent on it in Latin America, in Africa, and in most of Asia were largely affected by these particular things. This has also led to the birth of monopolies. Take a look at the Fortune 500 companies or the S&P 500 or even the Magnificent Seven, all of the tech companies in the world that we use on a day-to-day basis. At its core, it has America responsible for these things. And even if you can compete, you don't have the capacity and economies of scale to be able to deal with the first mover advantage and the huge amounts of money that they have. That is why America has a supply chain and operational monopoly over every important industry, military technology and capacity, artificial intelligence. That is why the currencies we use all around the world, in as much as it's free, it's pegged to the US dollar, and the volatility we're seeing in the United States right now with Donald Trump Season 2 has largely wrecked us all. Number two, even if you can have some sort of innovation, for instance, or even if you can be able to compete, we think it does not create an incentive structure to do so. Neoliberalism creates a capitalist incentive structure that promotes resource wars and proxy wars because of the nature of a zero-sum game wherein it becomes winner-take-all. That is why America wants stake in Afghanistan, America wants stake in Iraq, and recently America wants stake over Venezuelan oil fields when they literally went to freaking war with Venezuela in order to get their president in the middle of the night, killing roughly 30 or 40 combatants in the process in the name of capitalism, in the name of protection. We think that is a failure. Ladies and gentlemen, neoliberalism has led to the over-reliance of the invisible hand, and I think that invisible hand, just like any magic trick, has largely been invisible. It has led to a zero-sum game and a perverse belief that things can get better because Uncle Sam and all of these large powers are going to help you, but when advantaged, they're ultimately going to be able to take advantage. Very proud to open this debate from Side Proposition.